Hello everybody, Zach Couples, physical therapist here, and folks, we use exercises for a wide variety of goals, and sometimes we find moves that work better than others. And fam, I have a bunch of moves that have worked better than others. In fact, I'm going to go through the top 10 moves that we have come up with in 2021 to help your supreme clientele move better, feel better, and perform like rock stars. And these moves, folks, were voted by you because the fam recognizes fam. So without further ado, let's go through the 10 best exercises from 2021. Number 10, the lower body foam roller roll. This is probably one of my personal favorite moves that I devised for my supreme clientele, and I like it for a variety of reasons. Folks, we work with a lot of people who are stiff as all hell in every which direction. And when you have someone who is stiff and limited in all directions, you have to teach these people to move with a whole lot less tension. The foam roller lower body roll is a prime example of how to do that. I like it because you can rest your leg on the foam roller, keeping it supported, and it allows for a little bit of a rotational bias to begin with because one leg's extended and the other's flexed. I typically will perform this move or give this move to someone who is limited, multi-directional, especially if it's external rotation, because as you'll see in the video, the leg is biased into external rotation, and it's an awesome move. The time when I wouldn't use this is if the person you're working with has a big anterior orientation of the pelvis. Because if they have an anterior orientation, a lot of times what I've found is they'll end up pushing and arching their back more forward to try and complete the roll. And we don't do that here. So we want to try to get them to move with as little tension and effort as possible. Check it out. You're going to have your bottom leg be straight in line with the rest of your body. Your top leg, you're going to have just the knee on the foam roller, or actually the thigh, I should say. You want your foot hanging on the ground, your knees can be bent. And you want the leg not straight up like this. You're going to have it at about a 45 to 60 degree angle. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to nasal breathe through this. But as you do so, when you breathe in, you're going to lead with the knee and roll forward slowly. And you want to think about moving one piece of your body at a time. It's going to be knee, and it's going to be hip, kind of going along for the ride. I'm still leading with the knee though. And then my sacrum's going to go, low back, all that. So you don't want to just roll everything at once. You really want to try to move one piece of your body at a time. You're going to go as far as you can forward on the inhale. Like that, and then exhale, just really slow, lazy. Bring it back, and I would do so through the nose. So it's inhale forward. Exhale back. And it's not much movement, but what you're teaching yourself is to start moving your body parts independently. And you'll be able to see from this view just how much movement we're getting. So I'm here, knee's going to be bent. Bring it back. Just like that. Number 9, the TRX rollout. This move is absolutely brutal. It's going to crush your abs, but it's really good for someone who utilizes a very rectus abdominis dominant strategy. Ooh, dang, bars to that. And if you have any limitations in pump handle expansion, it's a really good move. So you want to program this if you see someone who's got limited shoulder flexion and internal rotation, and especially if they have any internal rotation deficits in the hips, it's good for that as well. Typically, when I'm programming this move, it's going to be one of my accessories that I will utilize at the tail end of the program. So let's give it a shot. Get a TRX, and you want to set it kind of low, and you're going to rest your forearms in the bottom loop. And from here, you're basically going to do an ab wheel rollout, just use the TRX. With your setup, you want to make sure you get the hips tucked, you push the chest away without crunching. You don't want to sag, so you maintain some ab tension. Then you're going to maintain this, reach your arms forward, let your hips come forward without sagging down. Tuck, reach, breathe in, exhale, Bring it back. Number 8, the supine hip extension with overhead reach. Came up with this move because I was running into a lot of folks with wide infrasternal angles. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a wider rib cage. There will be a link in the description below that will give you some ideas if you want to learn more about that. But I had folks who had a difficult time performing the tuck of the hips, which is a very common action that we teach our Supreme clientele if we're trying to improve their movement capabilities. And so I started messing with a lot of single leg based actions, because when you do something single leg, it's sometimes easier to get the tuck because it allows for more rotational actions to occur in the pelvis. And this move was absolutely money for that, because I was able to throw in some reaching based actions to help make the infrasternal angle or the lower rib cage dynamic. We were able to teach the stack effectively, and then all my wide peeps could talk to Zach. I love this move. If you got someone who's a wide infrasternal angle, they have a loss of hip flexion, external and internal rotation, because when you're doing things on both legs, you're going to have both rotational actions occurring, and especially if there's a loss of limitations in flexion and internal rotation in the shoulder, it's a money move. Typically, I will perform this or program this for someone either as a daily home exercise program to do, or I'll put it in the warm-up. Check it out. You're going to get a foam roller and you're going to put it up against the wall. From here, you're going to put one foot on the wall. The other leg is going to be bent just like so. And then what you're going to do is, the first step is you want to get a nice little hip tuck. So you're going to tuck your hips, think back pockets going towards the heel, while keeping your abs relaxed, just like that. That's step 1. Step 2, you're going to push your inside heel and your big toe into the wall. That'll get a little bit of glute. You're going to kick it up a notch, Emeril Lagasse style. Don't worry. That's step 2. Step 3, bring your knee to your nose and keep pushing into the wall. That should intensify the glute. If by some chance you're getting like some pinchy stuff in the front of the hip, no worries. Just keep your leg on the ground in the meantime. Knee to nose. Step 3, what you're going to do is you're going to take both your arms, reach them slightly overhead, just like so. You're going to hold this position, breathe in this position. On the exhale, just make sure you're reaching your arms up at about a 45-degree angle. It's going to look like this. Hold position, breathe in. Number 7, the side-lying Swiss ball stretch. Folks, sometimes you can have a very difficult time coaching your Supreme clientele to get into the movements and positions that we so desire, that we know is going to help them move like rock stars. And this year I tried to come up with a lot more passive strategies that could get my peeps feeling better if they couldn't get in the positions that we needed. The side-lying Swiss ball stretch is one example of that. I love it because basically you're creating a passive closing action on the lower rib cage, the one that's on the ball, and then you're creating expansion on the opposite side. So you can get a twofer, as we say in the Midwest. You get lateral rib cage compression on the down, lateral rib cage expansion on the up, which is great for anyone, whether you're a narrow infrasternal angle or a wide infrasternal angle. It's money in that regard. And so typically I will program this early in their programming. A lot of times I'll give this as a first go-ahead move, especially if they're having a difficult time stacking. And it's really good if you have any internal rotation or side bending limitations. Let's give it a shot. The goal with this activity is to really stretch out the side of your body. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to roll onto the Swiss ball like so. I want one arm down like this. Leg's going to be down. You're going to stretch your arm over the side. I'm really going to kind of conform my body towards the Swiss ball. You're going to hold this position, breathe in this position, in through the nose, out through the mouth. You're going to feel the bottom abs contract. Number 6, the lower body roll. Rolling has been a big theme for me this year because it's a great way to teach your Supreme clientele how to move with a whole lot less tension. And the lower body roll was one of the ways that I was achieving that. I like it because you can help increase internal rotation capabilities, because oftentimes when you're doing this roll, you're at about 90 degrees of hip flexion. Now, folks, you do have to be careful with this activity. A lot of ways people will screw it up is, instead of reaching with the leg that's not involved, they'll end up adducting the femur across midline. And sometimes when that happens, people can complain of pinching or a lot of groin stuff. We don't want that. So you really want to think about reaching the leg up and rolling when you go ahead and perform this action. It's a great move, in my opinion, if there's any flexion or internal rotation loss in the hips, if you have any trunk rotation deficits, and someone who's generally stiff all over, so multi-directional restrictions. But because it's an internal rotation biased exercise, you're going to be performing it later in the progression of someone who's limited in all directions. It's a great warm-up move, or it's a great move to do daily. Let's check it out.
You're going to lie flat on your back with your arms chilling at your side. And then what you're going to do from this point is you're going to slowly slide your leg up, making sure above your stomach is completely relaxed. Take a breath of air in. Exhale, get it out. Nasal breathe the rest of the way. And then what you're going to do is you're going to lift your leg up in the air. You're going to take your knee and you're going to roll, reach it across your body, and try to roll your body one segment at a time, making sure that your arms, nothing assists. You're just moving one piece at a time. You don't want everything to roll as one block. You want to think about your back staying on the ground as long as you can until that is the only option left to move. I'm going to keep reaching. Just like that. Roll it back, do it again. You might feel a little bit of groin on this. It's totally okay. Make sure the opposite leg stays relaxed as well. One more for the Gipper.
Number 5, the half kneeling bicep curl. Folks, you know it wouldn't be a top 10 exercise video if we didn't show off the big biceps. And that's why I like the half kneeling bicep curl. It's actually a really good move for a lot of things, because done well, you can promote expansion and range of motion gains in a wide variety of areas. In fact, if I have someone who's got any posterior expansion restriction, so a loss of external rotation in the shoulder or shoulder flexion, can't do flexion and supination, it's good for that. Not only that, because you're going to be turning your head and checking out your bicep, not just because, you got great biceps like your boy, but that also helps promote rotation of the trunk in a manner that promotes expansion posteriorly. So it's really good for that. I also like it if there's anyone who has an internal rotation loss in the hips. When you're at 90 degrees of hip flexion and 0 on the support leg, both of those are in the internal rotation ranges. So if you can own that position, you're going to get some major improvements in your internal rotation capabilities. Now, just because we're doing this in half kneeling, it doesn't mean that we have to do it on both sides. If you're someone who has some type of asymmetrical presentation in the pelvis, you might look at biasing one side versus the other when you're doing curls. For example, and I'll link this in the show notes, don't worry, but if you have someone who's got more of an oblique axis pelvis, which a lot of times if you have an oblique axis pelvis, you're going to be seeing a drop off of internal rotation on the left hip and external rotation on the right hip. If you see those deficits, I will oftentimes put the right foot forward on this particular activity. If it's more of a flat turn pelvic presentation, that case would be exhibited with someone who's got an external rotation loss on the left and an internal rotation loss on the right. Well, if you put the left leg forward, this move is dynamite.
You're going to set up in the half kneeling position. To make your half kneeling on point, you want to make sure your foot, knee, and hip are all in a straight line on the front leg. On the back leg, you're going to make sure you tuck your hips. Exhale, drop the lower rib cage down. You want to make sure knee, hip, and trunk are all in a line. You don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. Once you're in this position, you're going to grab yourself a dumbbell and hold it at your side. And then you're going to do some curls. As you do the curl, you want to make sure that your arm's just a little bit in front like so. And then what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in, curl the weight. Go ahead and look at your hand as you do so. And then back to the start. From the front, tuck, exhale, get a little rotation. Inhale, mire the bicep. Exhale down. Go ahead and mire it.
Number 4, the cross-connect leg lower. I'm always trying to find moves for my Supreme clientele to torch their abs, and this was one of those moves. But the nice thing about it is it does also address movement quality in a lot of different facets. Because it's a cross-connect, you're going to be getting a lot of posterior expansion and external rotation improvements on the side that's reaching. So if I'm reaching with my right arm and I'm bringing my left knee to meet it at midline, that's going to promote posterior expansion on the right side, because a low reach is going to get posterior expansion in the right upper thorax. And then when I adduct and internally rotate the left leg, that's going to turn the pelvis to the right, which will also promote posterior expansion in the pelvis. So it's money in that regard. Also, you can drive hip extension because you're going to be lifting the leg up and down, and you're going to get phenomenal abdominals after this activity. So if you see any ER deficits in the upper extremity, loss of trunk rotation, and you need both hip extension, internal and external rotation, this move is pretty dope. Typically, I'm going to be programming this as one of my accessory moves for my Supreme clientele.
You're going to lie on your back, and you're going to bring one knee up. In this case, it's going to be my left. If your left knee is up, you want the opposite elbow to touch that side. Boom, like this. Make sure you're not crunching to get up. You want elbow to knee. Let your hand face forward. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold this position, create contact. I'm going to take a breath of air in. Exhale to set the lower rib cage. Here's where it gets tricky. You're going to then inhale. As you inhale, lift your right leg up. Exhale, slowly lower, and proceed to have your abs destroyed.
Number 3, the upper body roll. This is probably the worst move that I've ever come up with, because it looks easy, but it's really freaking hard if you do it right. Because what you're trying to do with this particular activity is you want to teach your Supreme clientele to move with very little tension, and you want them to be able to differentiate their upper and lower body. So your lower half is completely relaxed, which is really hard, because now I got to roll against gravity while maintaining very little tension. Ooh, it's brutal, folks. You'll definitely like it. I typically will program this for someone who is limited in multiple directions, but you're looking at this at the tail end of improving their movement capabilities, just because you do have to have some available motion, especially into external rotation, in order to complete the roll. Because people will screw this up by really working the legs to try to perform the action, and we do not want that with this particular activity. If you see any limitations in trunk rotation, shoulder internal rotation, and they're super stiff, it's an awesome move. I like it either as a daily move to perform or as a warm-up. Let's, at your heart's content, give it a shot.
Assume a T position with your arms. You want waist down to be completely relaxed. And what you're going to do is you're going to roll from one side to the other. You're going to try to only use your arm to create the roll and your head. The down arm should stay relaxed. Everything else should stay relaxed. It's going to be in slow motion, and you're moving one segment at a time. To start, breathe in, exhale, get it all out. Then you're going to nasal breathe the rest of the way. From here, take, in this case, my left hand. I'm going to slide it across my chest, and then once I get to where my body's starting to turn a little bit, I'm going to turn my head towards the ground without lifting up, and I'm just going to reach and try to keep everything else relaxed. What's creating the roll is my top hand reaching and my head turning towards the ground And as you can see, it's really tough. You just keep going, try to relax your legs as best you can. And once you get to the end, you're done. And then you can try the other side, see if that's perhaps a little bit more difficult, which it is for me. You can see I had to get my legs relaxed there for a sec. Boom.
Number 2, the dead bug cross connect. Folks, is this a repeat? Nope. This is actually a regression from the dead bug leg lower, because with the dead bug leg lower, your leg's fully extended. That makes it way harder. With the dead bug cross connect, you're starting from a flex position and then working towards extension, so it's a little bit easier. But same song and dance as we had with the dead bug leg lower in terms of needs, loss of hip extension, flexion, internal external rotation. Really, it's going to improve everything. There's a deficit in shoulder ER or a limitation in trunk rotation. It's a money move, and I think you're really going to like it.
You're going to lie on your back, start in the dead bug position, which is legs up in the air, arms are going to be towards the ceiling. Take a breath of air in, exhale, reach. Now here's where it gets wild and crazy, folks. You're going to take one elbow, bring it to your knee. So I'm going to kind of curl up nice and slow. I'm going to look at the palm of my hand. I'm going to keep pressing my elbow up into this knee, and I'm going to keep pulling my knee up until the elbow. You're going to hold this position, take a breath of air in. Exhale, reach the opposite leg long, like so. Inhale up. You're going to just do that for reps.
And the number 1 move for 2021 is the absolutely brutal single leg lateral squat. This move is super hard. It's really hard to have a good hip position on this particular activity, so it's very advanced. I typically going to be programming this after someone's blasted through single leg squats, step ups, everything single leg, because it's really difficult to keep the leg centered position and drive some of the frontal plane actions that we want to see at the pelvis to perform this task. But if you can get it, it's really good for improving a ton of hip ranges of motion. Like if there's any trunk side bending, loss of internal rotation or abduction, and you need to get your legs freaky strong, this move is awesome. So let's give it a shot and see if you can do it.
You're going to stand on the box, kettlebell out in front of your chest. From the side, you want to lean your whole body back, not just your uppers, not just your lowers. Whole body leans back so you get a little bit of a counterweight. Your leg that's hovering in the air is going to be directly at the side of the leg that's supporting you. Once you get here, you're going to get a hip tuck, an exhaled lower ribcage position. Once you got that, you're going to then drop your right leg down towards the ground. I didn't bend my knee to do that. I just dropped the hip like so. So that way you get this oblique angle of your pelvis. Once you got that, you're going to then squat down. As you squat, you want to take the inside part of your foot, the arch on the right, and skim, but don't touch the surface. If you get it right, you're going to feel your outside hip working on this unsupported leg. It's going to look like this. Tuck, downshift, skim and squat. Skim and squat.
Folks, that concludes the top 10 exercises of 2021, chosen by you, the fam, because the fam recognizes fam. Which ones were your favorite? Were there some that I released this year that didn't make the cut and you're like, man, Zach, I wish that would have been there? Comment below. Let me know what you liked about these moves, or if you have other ones that you preferred. Also, if you thought that this video was helpful, check me out at zachcouples.com. You can learn more there. Please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it with your fam, all types of stuff so we can help the fam keep growing. Thank you so much for tuning in. You've been an amazing, outstanding audience, and I hope that you keep it real but not to the extent where things go wrong. Stay hungry, stay learning, stay moving. And I'll see you next time. Deuces.